The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.
Empire.
The world is changing.
At EverFi, we created a learning platform that organizations get behind and private label it and bring it into communities that they care about. And it can be around topics they care about. I know you mentioned, a couple of the big ones for us, financial wellness and mental wellness.
That's Jon Chapman, co-founder of EverFi, where the issues of today and hopefully a more normal tomorrow are being raised. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Jon Chapman has been working in the technology realm for over 2 decades and leads a company that, among its offerings, bridges the access of sports teams to young fans through a series of educational platforms that deal with an array of modern issues. How do children digest the unusual and turbulent 2020? Jon Chapman hopes he has some answers to that. If there was ever a time to check in on your mental wellness and definitely your financial wellness, it is right now during an unusual period in the history of the world, a global pandemic. So let's welcome in our guest, Jon Chapman, who is the founder and the president of the global partnerships of EverFi, which is a company that he co-founded a little more than a decade ago. They're an international technology company that are driving social change through education, and they're addressing some of the most challenging issues in society. Hey, Jon, how are you? Thanks for being with us.
I'm doing great, Bram. It's good to be with you.
I don't think any of us ever expected this. You guys do work in this type of field of dealing with issues that are imperative to financial and mental well-being, but I don't know how you prepare for something like this. Can you kind of just give me an overview of life in general from your point of view?
Sure. It's certainly unprecedented times, that's for sure. And it's something that I don't think any of us were ready for. In many ways, as a technology company, though, I think we're probably, relatively a little bit more equipped to make the quick pivot into the environment we operate in now, both from a company perspective and how we operate on a day-to-day basis. I've definitely become a Google Hangouts and Zoom expert, as I know many of my colleagues have been, but also in terms of from the perspective of our business, the fact that we built a digital learning platform that can be accessed remotely and learner-led in the sense that everything is designed within it from a content perspective is really designed to be used in a self-paced way. I think has actually served us well as we've tried to continue to accommodate the community we serve from a learner perspective and some of the additional customers we work with. That the fact that it's delivered remotely and on a digital platform has certainly served us well as we've entered into this sort of upside down environment.
Have teams, leagues, partners that you have asked for anything specific from you in trying to help educate people about how to deal with what's going on right now?
Yes, absolutely. It's really been our business in general. At EverFi, we created a learning platform that organizations get behind and private label it and bring it into communities that they care about. And it can be around topics they care about. I know you mentioned, a couple of the big ones for us, financial wellness and mental wellness. Some of our best and most supportive customers are the professional sports leagues here in North America and actually beyond. We work on a global footprint with leagues outside of the U.S. as well. They've certainly come to us seeking to amplify their current partnership with us. Obviously, in a more normal pre-COVID-19 time, they were supporting our programs, implementing our software into schools as a school-wide program. So, for example, someone like the National Hockey League has been working with us now for 6 years to bring a program called Future Goals into classrooms across the U.S. and Canada to use the game of hockey to teach STEM-based concepts and STEM careers concepts. We do that also with leagues like the NFL around character education, a program called Character Playbook is run the same way. Major League Baseball, a program called Summer Slugger, which gets at summer learning loss for younger students. A program called Actions Matter we do with Major League Soccer, and then a program called Primary Stars that we work on internationally with both in the UK and the US with the Premier League. And so those are programs that for us, while they've always been used traditionally, our leagues have come to us in the last several weeks and said, listen, we want to be able to provide these remotely to families. We know, and remotely actually to teachers as well. Obviously, both the household and the teachers now are out there having to execute remote learning plans and keep kids engaged, keep kids on track, and during this time. And I think that the leagues have asked us to really step up and amplify that work. At the same time, it's also really, I think, a value add to those leagues because it gives them a chance to engage with their fan audience when they're in unprecedented times of not having, in many cases, some of those leagues I mentioned having their sports on the court or on the ice or on the field. And so this gives them an opportunity to engage and keep their brand and their part of the community top of mind, and also show that they show families what they have been doing before this all started and supporting schools. So that's been received really well. And I think we've been excited to step up and accommodate bringing our solution more directly into families' living rooms instead of just the traditional way we've been doing it into classrooms. So it's been a lot of fun.
So you mentioned the engagement piece of it. Obviously, listen, everybody's trying to remain engaged with one another in various ways, and with no sports, clearly they want to stay top of mind with fans when they do eventually come back. Under normal circumstances, do they view partnering with you similarly, that this is a way to engage with fans and alongside educating families in all of these different things that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that, as I mentioned before, what we're doing now is really amplifying what they've already been doing. So they do absolutely look at it. First and foremost, it's the right thing to do. They look at it as something that's a way to bring use our technology, use our team here at EverFi as a way to really bring a scaled solution to their clubs. In many ways, leagues are always, I've learned very quickly over the last 6 or 7 years, they're always looking for ways in which they can provide a support to efforts to get into the community. So the fact that we can private label our platform, so every time the program is brought out to a community, it's very much localized. So if the Nashville Predators are bringing a program around Future Goals or our NHL partnership to Nashville, it's a Predators program. When they're doing it here in DC, it's a Caps program. When they're doing it, elsewhere, so on and so forth. The leagues are able to, provide that sort of service to their clubs, and I think that's a key piece of the value to them. And so it's the right thing to do so that they're extending that support to community initiatives they already want to get behind. So that's kind of the right thing to do category. The second one, absolutely, is fan engagement. They want to continue to find ways to not only, engage their fan base by the product on the court or the field or the ice, but they want to do it in ways in which they're doing it in the community. And so this is a unique way to use technology to meet kids where they already are, where they tend to be engaged anyway, and create an alternative form of keeping their brand top of mind and strong in fan communities' eyes, but also more importantly, reach fans that maybe wouldn't not necessarily be drawn to the sport. So in many ways, when we started our partnership, for example, with the NHL, a big emphasis for them was how do we use this program to really underscore or shine a light on a non-traditional hockey market. How do we complement the ball hockey tournaments that are happening in Tampa Bay with the Lightning with a school program where we're bringing our digital curriculum plus visits from players like Alex Killorn and others to really show there's another way for a student who may not initially been drawn or a family been drawn to the Lightning to know about what that club's doing in the community and maybe be drawn to, be intrigued to what that they're doing on the ice And so it's another way to sort of, we always call it, there's many paths to becoming a fan.
Yeah.
Our program can be one of those paths.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, because listen, I'm of an age where this type of outreach occurred on Saturday mornings during cartoons, and it was called The More You Know, or something like. It was a PSA program, but it always was localized, and you would always end up having a couple of athletes from your team. And it's not to minimize what you're doing. Clearly, what you guys are doing is far superior to that, but it seems to have that kind of genesis of, here's this kind of good feel about what your teams are doing for you and reaching you in the place where they think they can find you. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think we're probably of similar age, so I too went through those same experiences as a kid, and we're trying to build on that. In fact, when we started the company 12 years ago, those were some of the inspirations. Like, how do we take what has been maybe that kind of traditional either TV or, in many cases for our other programs, more of a traditional analog workbook-based kind of, traditional program. And how can we really bring it full force into the 21st century using technology? How can we take, teaching financial literacy, and instead of having, just a banker come into the classroom and hand out some workbooks for one day, how can we make that an exciting, interactive experience where we took kids to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange to learn about investing, and they were, going into scenario-based situations where they were, destroying their credit score and building it back up. And those are the things that really thread through our vision for the company as a whole. And then certainly as we work with the sports leagues, it's been a lot of fun as a sports guy myself, taking the game and using it as a really alternative way to teach. In many ways, I'll never forget going up to Toronto, obviously the hotbed of hockey, and talking to a middle school teacher there who was working with his students on our Hockey Scholar program, which is the name of the curriculum that is part of the Future Goals initiative that we work on with the NHL and the Players Association. And he said, listen, I struggled so much to teach my kids how to use a protractor, how to figure out, use a physical protractor to measure an angle. But we have a lesson within Hockey Scholar where we actually have kids virtually shoot a puck off the board and then take a virtual protractor and measure the angle of the shot. And he's like, this actually brought that concept to life in a way that I just simply couldn't as a teacher. And so those are the moments where, again, we're reaching kids where they are, in school. But even today, in the situation we're in today, that hopefully that same, kid in Toronto, but also in Tampa Bay and Arizona, are also maybe, learning the benefit of, as they go through their angles lesson in, 6th or 7th grade, they're using this tool to teach, to bring those concepts to life while they're working on that, maybe, at home in their living room during their kind of executing their remote learning plan.
Jon, what's your background? Were you intending to be an educator?
Well, I originally, no. I sort of left. I went to a liberal arts college. I went to Bowdoin College up in Maine, and I was, I always tell folks that it's, the best liberal arts. I'm a huge liberal arts education proponent because it doesn't necessarily teach you exactly what you want to do. It doesn't put you down a narrow path. It teaches you, how to think, how to critically analyze things, how to communicate, how to write, how to problem solve. And at the end of the day, those are things that that really, to me, apply to being an entrepreneur. So I did work in education out of undergrad. So I worked for over 10 years at Kaplan in the education space, a number of different operating roles in a number of different parts of the country that really cut my teeth there. Learning how to be a general manager, learning how to apply all those liberal arts skills I learned at Bowdoin. I was an athlete at Bowdoin. I played basketball, so I also had kind of the things you learn from being an athlete, being a teammate. And I think, for me, as I worked at Kaplan, I certainly was very interested in the education space, but obviously hadn't been in it in a traditional way as a teacher. But I also realized that I had a passion for being an entrepreneur and applying some of those skills. And so I actually reconnected with ironically, two former friends from Bowdoin, Tom Davidson and Ray Martinez. And we, came up with the idea for what EverFi would be to use, technology to go out to schools across the country and teach what we call critical skills, which really are topic areas that get undercovered in the classroom. So there's things like financial literacy, mental wellness, career preparation, other topics like that kind of circle around the curriculum. They might be a class that you take once semester during high school, but you're not really learning enough to have an impact. And we thought technology could really scale that, teach that impact in a unique way, or teach that concept in a unique way, so that we could have a bigger impact. And so we conceived the idea of creating that, and then really, for us, the secret sauce of our business model has been, partnering with third parties, be they private sector companies, state governments, not-for-profits, to really fund and license and pay for the license of our technology on behalf of schools and communities they care about, so that at the end of the day, the schools didn't have to pay anything. Because if we were going to start an education technology company, we just, we looked around and the traditional model didn't really work. It didn't scale because you had to go to school board across the country and ask them for, a license fee to your software. And we just knew we couldn't scale quickly enough. But we knew there was an appetite in the private sector to sort of contribute and almost pay that freight on behalf of schools. And we certainly actualized that with now the thousands of partners, including the ones, I know we're focusing on today from the sports industry.
Yeah.
But we have many other partners from all sorts of industries.
Are you working in the eSports realm? They have massive audiences. Are there partnerships where you're trying to do education and using their access to their audiences?
It's a great question, and I think it's something we're currently working on. One of our biggest customers with our traditional program in the schools is actually EA Sports. Actually, really electronic arts in general, not just EA Sports. And they are a big proponent of teaching kids about obviously the technology industry, in particular the video game industry, and with them, our program is called Play to Learn, and it's really to kind of get kids excited about studying STEM so that they can be a game developer. It's a cool profession, but you got to obviously get your chops going in science and math in order to really be able to do that. And so that's the program we do with them today. We've had conversations and are in conversations now with them and other, the burgeoning esports industry to do more things alongside that industry that does mimic our traditional programs with the terrestrial league, the traditional leagues across the country. And so no firm partnerships to point to as of yet, but certainly something we're exploring. You're right. It's really an incredible audience. There's some really cool, innovative new companies I've talked to, that are, coming up and are really much earlier stages than we are today, that are really trying to crack the nut of supporting that growing industry. And we're certainly interested in doing so as well.
Well, I'll leave you with this because I think everybody needs it, which is a mental break from everything. And since you are doing a lot of work in that space with a lot of different groups, can you kind of generally just give the message to young and old people alike how to keep mental wellness in mind as they try to navigate all of this right now?
Yeah, I think that in many ways, mental wellness is certainly a very big topic area of ours, and I think that there are a couple of things I would give as advice. One, I think in these times you have to, from a self perspective, find a routine for yourself, and that routine can't just be either grinding too hard in one direction or the other, so that you kind of burn yourself out. You got to build stuff into that routine that is, a time to get a break, a time to exercise, a time to simply get fresh air. And so I think having that routine, and I think we've all developed our version of that, hopefully, but if you haven't, please do. I think that's super important. I think the other thing that I would mention, and it comes directly from, a core part of our, pedagogical approach, if you will, towards mental health and mental wellness, is be a supportive friend, be a supportive bystander. If you know someone who is potentially struggling, or if you've observed signs in the past of that, be a good friend of them. Reach out to them. Do a Google Hangout with them. And we all have, friends and colleagues in that situation. Maybe for different reasons. It may not be a mental health reason. It may be someone who's potentially, based on their own condition, they may be immunocompromised, and you know that, and they have more restrictions on their situation in this current environment. So reach out, be a friend. That's a big part of what we try to do, again, with our teaching approach to mental wellness. A lot of it is, good, effective, healthy bystander intervention, support for a friend. That is such a key to addressing this. And then also vice versa, if you're going through issues, it may be hard, but reach out to someone, just call them up, ask them for help, ask them for some time, because it works obviously both ways.
Jon Chapman is one of the co-founders of EverFi. Thanks so much for joining us, Jon.
Appreciate it, Ben. Great to be with you.
One of EverFi's clients is the National Lacrosse League. Their deputy commissioner, Jessica Berman, will join us to talk about modern outreach as they promote their sport.
My passion and really the reason I work in sports is social impact. I believe that sports has the power to change the world, and I think that's even more true in a global pandemic.
That's next time. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3 Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3 Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.